Howdy, everybody.
There's a lot of good-looking people out there.
Indeed.
I think. I don't know. I can't see them. What's going on, everyone? Welcome or welcome back to the Battle Bros podcast, starring myself and this handsome SOB right here. I shouldn't say SOB because his mother. Oh, SOB, son of Boricua. It works.
Nice. Yeah,
That's good.
actually, that
I'm
does
gonna
work.
use that. I'm gonna use
So,
that. That's so good.
you SOB, you. Hey, you son of Boricua. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
What's
that's a
going on,
good one.
everybody?
What's
So,
happening,
like I said,
peoples?
welcome back to the Battle Rose podcast with Alamo over here to this side of me. My name is Mac. We are the Battle Rose podcast, and yeah, welcome back. Glad to have you back. So, um, yeah, we're trying something a little bit different today. So, if you're hoping to catch us live. This is live when we recorded it, but we're not going live on the Friday night that this airs because just of scheduling conflicts and whatnot. So
Yeah.
you may not be able to get the comments into the section and have us respond to them at this time because we're not going to be there. You're watching something pre-recorded. It's kind of like, anything worthwhile during halftime at Super Bowl. It's just pre-recorded.
Yep.
And it's not the production value there. Okay, so that's a bad example. Never mind.
Well, no, still though, leave them comments in the comment section and like, share, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube. Hit the Rumble button if you're on Rumble as well. Just so that you can continue to make sure that you get content from us. And if you like that content, go ahead and like and share. Liking and sharing. Sharing is caring.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's so good. If you've seen the show before, we've made that joke almost every damn episode. You know what it is. If not, we'll explain at the end. So hang around, stick around. We'll check it. We'll kind of fill you in there when we on the way out. But yeah. So if you caught our last two episodes, we actually had a 2-part discussion. We had kind of did the church sermon kind of thing. We had a series that were related. We had two show topic discussion on driving on, and the first show that we did was on perseverance. The second one we did on resiliency, and I think it was a pretty good conversation. So,
yeah,
if you would like, feel free to check out any of the apps that are out there: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that good stuff, and check out episode 045 and 046 to catch those conversations. Otherwise, you can check out our YouTube if you want to see what we look like, because some people like to watch. And I'm not being weird when I say that. I'm just saying some people are visually cued and they like to watch. Moving right along. And so tonight, we're going to talk about a different kind of subject. We're going to be kind of talking about two things at once simultaneously. I know that's redundant, but you'll understand what I'm talking about. We are going to be having a discussion on comparing and contrasting, because I speak words. We're going to be talking about selfless versus selfish. Okay. Ooh, kind of people out there going, oh, that's kind of an interesting thing. Yeah, let's talk about that. So,
indeed.
There are times when it's okay to be selfless. There are most times, when people think of selfish as a bad thing. But is it really a bad thing? Join us tonight as we deep dive into this conversation. Okay, I don't pull off the NPR voice very well, so that's all good. But so, what do you say we go down the rabbit hole, folks? Shall we?
Roger
that. So let's bring those two up by themselves. So first thing we're going to talk about is selfless. So selfless. What's it mean, Mac? I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about it. Selfless is being concerned with the needs and wishes of others than with one's own. Okay? Basically, everybody else's welfare and well-being. You're talking about that, okay? And for anybody that was hopefully it still is. It's not changed too much, but for anybody that was in the Army in the GWAT generation, we had the 7 Army values. The acronym was leadership. So we had loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. So we had a show previously towards the end of last season where we talked about service. I believe, was that the one we talked about Woody, the Marine who was a Medal of Honor winner, or
Yes. Yeah.
was that
Oh
duty
wait.
or that? I think that was
Actually,
service. It was
I think actually now I'm confused. I think duty was the one where we talked about Woody.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we also talked about one with service. I think we actually mentioned Her Majesty the Queen in that one, just talking about being on the throne for so long. I think, but that might have also been duty. I get confused. I can't remember what day of the week it is.
Duty.
Wow, really, dude, duty. Anyway,
Duty.
so selfless, like we talked about. Okay, concerned with the needs and wishes of others, rather than with oneself. Okay. Um, but yeah, I mean, showing up, we had something we had to learn right off the get was the 7 Army values. One of them being selfless service, and what are some examples of being selfless? When you have, there's all kinds of citations for awards for valor and Medal of Honor and whatnot, where I can think of the only reason I remember this one. Well, besides the fact that the act of heroism was just so profound, but this young kid, I forget what unit he was with. He was on active duty. They were in Iraq, I believe, but he had the same last name as me. It was a Spec 4 by the name of Ross McGinnis. Funny enough, ironic enough, nothing funny about laying down one's life and for your comrades, but he was the gunner in I believe an up armored Humvee, and somebody threw a grenade up into the gunner's hatch, and it landed down by his feet. And what he did was he immediately said, "Grenade, grenade, grenade," and then crouched down and pretty much hugged the radio mount. So in between the driver and the truck commander, the TC, which is that front seat passenger, you have a mount there where you're going to have like your SINGARs, you're going to have the hard drive for your BFT, your Blue Force tracker, all that kind of jazz. So the grenade ended up falling kind of like behind up and kind of getting to a place where it wasn't going to be able to be accessed very easily. So he just kind of hunkered down, grabbed the radio mount, pretty much ate the blast with his body and killed him instantaneously. The other guys got a little bit messed up, but they all four survived. So that to me is like the quintessential definition of selfless. That there's that line. If you've heard of the song, oh, what's that song by Big and Rich, about the 173rd Airborne? I forget what it is, but like they quote something. I forget where it's from, and shame on me for not knowing this. He goes, greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for his friend and stuff."
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like it's a big deal. So, what do you got to say on the subject there, Macho?
Well, I mean, I kind of related to what like actually, you know what? There was a good audiobook I listened to one time. It was based on a Navy SEAL that kind of he had a lot of personal issues, but when it came to the SEAL teams, when it came to doing his job, he was absolutely like beyond dedicated to his work. He was unfortunately before he joined the military, he actually was a drug addict.
Do you remember this person's name that the book was about?
I believe actually I think I have it in my Audible still. Let me see. But while I'm looking for that, I'm gonna continue.
By all means.
Essentially, he struggled with drug addiction. He did a lot of selfish things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, a lot of people say that drug addiction can be a disease. A lot of people say that it's a selfish, like kind of like a selfish, habit and things like that. I like to think it's kind of a little bit in between. Um, but basically, long story short, this guy, like I said, even though he was completely addicted to, you know, uh, the drugs that he was doing beforehand, because he had slip ups, he had times where even while during his Navy career, which they had to really fight to like, you know, keep him from getting booted out. He almost got booted out, I think, twice, which actually stopped him from uh, continuing doing it. I think he ended up getting blown up as well in like, I think it was Afghanistan or something like that. And when that happened, he ended up losing an eye. And somehow he requalified, recertified himself, right? And like he learned to shoot basically left-handed because his right eye, which was his dominant shooting eye, actually ended up getting blown out, and he was able to stay on the SEAL teams
So he switched his dominant eye from right to
from
left because
right to
his right
left.
eye was no longer
Was
there.
yeah. Um,
Let's be a little bit more sensitive than Bronx cheer just talking about
yeah.
someone losing their eyesight there, buddy.
I know, but I mean, in the book, he talks about it like it was nothing. But
Yeah, that's true.
unfortunately, this this SEAL did not survive one combat tour that they did in Afghanistan. Um, he ended up going over the fence first. I guess to like kind of take out a few Taliban that were in Afghanistan. He put himself in between everybody and just started shooting at literally everything he saw. They said that when in the book, I mean, in the book, it's described much more viscerally. I don't remember it word for word. For whatever reason, it's not showing up in my audio history. But when he got shot, he didn't get shot once. He got shot once, twice, three. I think it was like up to like I think like 16 times or some craziness like that. It was a ridiculous amount of shots. But while he was still laying there for the guys to get over, he was literally calling out like, "I see this distance. I see that this distance."
Like
They
still very much in the fight.
still very much in the fight, and all that mattered to him was making sure that the guys were okay.
Yeah.
Because he said to himself, like, I'm gonna do this because number one, I'm senior, and I want to make sure that these guys come out of here alive. Because they had gotten into I don't remember what it was, but they were trying to get an HVT. I remember that much. And unfortunately he lost his life.
Yeah.
It was a really, really sad book, but a really good book at the same time. And
Awesome.
I'm gonna see if I can try and find that later so I can actually try and freaking
Yeah, man.
uh
We'd love to
plug
hear
it.
what the hell it's called.
Yeah.
So selfless. I mean, that's kind of something that you would I think most people would kind of draw the comparison of being synonymous with most folks in the military, not just the folks that are out there being awarded Silver Star, Bronze Star with the Valor, with V device, stuff like that, Medal of Honor. That's kind of goes without saying that you would think that being selfless. I mean, especially when you read the story, read the citation. Go out there and read Master Sergeant Benavidez, who was a Green Beret in Vietnam. Like that guy
I remember
literally
that guy.
got just jacked up from the word go, but he stayed in the fight and was just like, no, not on my watch, man. So selfless, awesome. Okay, now let's look at the other end of the spectrum, and we're not really going to say that it's the counterpoint to selfless, but it's another trait that people can have, and that's being selfish. Okay. Selfish
Oh,
is defined. I found two definitions for it: lacking consideration for others. Okay, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. I'm going to read that second one again. Concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. Okay. And so the reason I brought that we talked about this is about early in the month we just had. So this is early December of 2022. We just had Veterans Day. And the thing that kind of brought this up was we were having a kind of a discussion, Alamo and I,
Yeah.
and we kind of talked about how there are certain groups, certain folks, for Veterans Day that'll go out there. There was a really good meme, and I wish we would have found it and showed it on the during our broadcast. But there was a meme where it was from Ghost Recon Wildlands, where you had the 4-man team, which is,
Yeah.
if you're not familiar if it's a game. But you have the 4-man team on the ramp of a C-130, and they're all sitting there like waiting for the green light, and they look down below to the town or whatnot they're getting ready to jump into, except on the map it has like barbecue joint, this place, just different restaurants that are offering
Here it is. Sorry to cut you off. Fearless.
Fearless.
Fearless is the book.
Who's
And
it
it's
about?
based on Navy SEAL Adam Brown. I knew the last name was Brown. I couldn't remember it though.
I think I remember hearing about that guy.
Yeah.
The guy
That
had to
was
have
a
freaking had a little like wagon for the size of his balls because he had fucking brass balls and shit. It's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. But
But sorry, go
anyways,
ahead.
no, you're good, man. I'm glad you brought that up. Glad you told us what that was. But anyway, so as I was saying, the meme has like the 4 guys on the ramp of a C-130. They're getting ready to jump, but if you look down, like over their shoulder, like the meme, the shot of the meme is like looking down to where they're getting ready to jump into, except like superimposed on top of them of this scenery, like these different restaurants. And it says like veterans on Veterans Day, like they're getting ready to do a military operation. And I've actually heard of guys going to like 12, 13, 14 different places just to get a free meal and stuff. And and I'm not chastising anybody. I have my own opinion. The opinion that I have is
Yeah.
mine and mine alone. If that's your thing, hey, so be it. Cool. I'm not trying to pick on anybody in particular, but just I'm going to give you my 2 cents on that. And there are some other examples of just being selfless. Like I remember the first time I saw being selfish. Excuse me, we're talking about selfish now. Being in basic training, we were the duty squad, so we were out in the field and we were serving up chow and stuff. And you had those really militarized looking red containers that they had all the hot chow and stuff. That they'd like bring those on the truck and you'd pop them out and you'd have the chow line set up and all that kind of jazz. And like I was like serving out one portion of the chow for that day, and it's like, okay, you just alternate. First guy gets this, second guy gets this, odd number of guys get this, odd number of guys get that. So there was this one cat, I forget what his last name was, and he like didn't want the freaking what he was getting, and like he jumped in around the guy behind him, and I was just like, wow, like fucking buddy fucker, man. It's like Blue Falcon. Oh.
Yeah.
It's like how are you gonna do that? Like it's sometimes sometimes you eat the bear, sometimes the bear eats you. Well, guess what? Today the bear's eating you. So like, stop being stupid. Just
Hmm.
fucking deal with it. So, and there's other things too. The whole selfish thing. Like I guess one of the biggest comparisons you could draw that nowadays are the folks that choose to engage in acts of stolen valor
Yeah.
for whatever motivations they have. And is it unfortunate? Yes. Is it kind of, is it shitty? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
Of
you
course
going to
it is.
stop? Are you
Yeah.
going to stop people from doing that? No. You got people pulling all kind of stuff every single day. So,
Mm.
but yeah, so selfish, lacking consideration for others, chiefly concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure, something you can do to get one over on everybody else. Now, it's fair to say when you're going through basic military indoctrination or training or whatnot, they do a pretty good job of kind of breeding that out of you, because most of the stuff that you do is going to be at least a battle buddy team. Okay.
Right.
No
Hmm.
matter where you go, if you got to go take a shit in the wood line, grab your battle buddy.
They drive into you from day one that
like a railroad spike.
you're not alone in anything. If uh, if you're gonna go shit, a buddy of yours is gonna go with you, and you're gonna shit together.
And you're gonna
You're
pull security.
It's
Hey,
like
Forrest, I'm gonna lean up against you. That way, we don't have to sleep with our heads in the mud. Mm-hmm. That just literally just popped into my head. It's like,
Think
man,
about it. 50-50.
50-50.
50-50.
That's good. So,
Uh,
but yeah, I would say that they do a good job of like getting that notion out of your head early on. Are there going to still be
yeah.
people that are somewhat toxic to military culture that just do a good job of being?
Shitbags.
I'm sorry. Did you hear something? I heard something. What was that?
Shitbags.
So there's a difference between being, a sham shield and being a shitbag. Okay, if you're a
Yeah.
sham shield, man, E4 Mafia runs shit. Let's
Yeah.
let's let's not mince words. All right, stripes and bars and clusters and eagles and stars. Yeah, y'all might be in charge, but you want shit done. Spec 4 Mafia. Exactly. Um, freaking, you know who to go to. That's how it works. But that
Yeah.
being said, just because, and like Richard High says, we're gonna teach you how to sham. All those freaking shammers unite and all that shit. Um,
Yar.
very very big difference between being shamming and then being selfish. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So, again, Alan, I'm gonna hand it over to you. What are your thoughts on being selfish?
I mean, there's just so many damn examples of that in the world. It's. I mean, in my honest opinion, I like as humans in general, by nature, we have a tendency to act selfishly. Now, there are degrees and differences to the selfishness that you let come forward. I think for example, like there's another audio book book that
He
I was
speaks
listening to.
words.
I speak words that I that
Thank you,
I'm
Sid.
listening to that I'm listening to with the wife. It's called I believe it's called Winning or something like that. And essentially in the book the author talks about touches on selfishness. He said and he goes down the line of saying,
Quick,
how
quick, quick interruption.
yes,
Was the book written by Charlie Sheen?
no.
Winning. Okay, just making sure.
It
Sorry.
was
I was
it
like,
was
this is a hell of a stretch going with this one. I'm like, all
yeah.
right. It's
Um
all good, man. Keep going.
there's like certain degrees to selfishness, and he actually made a very valid point when he talked about it. He said that, you know, in our society, selfishness, because nobody ever wants to acknowledge that they're selfish, but again, that goes back to the whole human nature thing where I'm talking about like how by human nature, I in personal my opinion, I believe that innately humans tend to be selfish by nature. And we have to come to terms with that there is a way to be selfish that does not um, basically feed into the negative aspects of selfishness. Like, for example, in the book, he talks about how,
I like the way you said that, by the way. Negative aspects of selfishness.
yeah.
I like that.
And he says in the book, he says, I'm gonna kind of slaughter it a little bit because I don't remember exactly word
I'm
for
telling you
word.
right now,
I'm gonna
I'm gonna fuck this up.
I'm gonna paraphrase. Like essentially, why why is it that when people think about selfish, why is it bad to be selfish? And he kind of breaks it down and he says, you know, is taking care of yourself selfish? Is making sure that you have your things in order selfish?
My
Is
dude,
it
I gotta tell you, you are like right on the money because this is a perfect lead into what I'm going to talk about when you're done in a minute,
is
dude.
it
But please
selfish
continue.
to say, for example, guard your resources, to save your money, things like that. He kind of goes into it and he says the type of selfishness I'm talking about is like basically the type of winning is the type of selfishness that if you're not focusing on taking care of yourself and making sure that you put yourself first, which in our society is looked at very negatively. If you put yourself first, why is that such
Yes
a
and no,
bad?
but continue.
Yes and no, yeah, but why is that such a bad thing? Because if you look at the way things happen, what the people that put themselves last, or at least according to his experience, he says typically don't move as far because since they're putting themselves last, they're not putting enough focus into what they can do. They're not basically the whole idea, the whole premise of what he was saying was the more you take care of yourself, the better you can take care of others in a nutshell.
Yes.
Which again, you gotta read the book.
Preach, brother.
Um,
Preach from the mountaintop, my
yeah,
dude.
you got to read the book, but it makes absolute perfect sense
And
when
this
he
one was
says it.
called Winning.
Winning with I think what was his name too? Jeez, I'm having total brain farts on all
So
this.
let me kind of take the baton from here while you look that up if you want. So
Yar
yeah, so the question I was going to pose to everybody out there watching, listening, consuming our content is
yar.
a very simple question: is being selfish bad? And I used to think, how I was raised, military experiences I've had, that's a pretty clean cut answer. Being selfish, yes.
Tim S. Grover. Winning by Tim S. Grover.
Winning by Tim S. Grover. Okay, cool.
Yes, correct.
So, as I was saying, if you ask me as, E3, E4 in the military about, I don't know, 10 years ago, 11, 12, wow, it's been a while. If you ask me if selfish is bad, from a military standpoint, I would say yes, absolutely. But now that I've been in the behavioral health field for going on 6 years and I've, matured as an adult, sort of, um, freaking,
Same here, brother.
I would say, is being selfish a bad thing? And I would say not necessarily.
No.
Is selfish good or bad? And I would honestly look at you and go, depends on how we're talking about it. So I
Yeah.
actually, and part of my research for this episode, I talked to quite a few people, close friends and confidants of mine, coworkers, and some of our usual source matter, subject matter sources and whatnot. So when is selfishness not a bad thing? So the one thing the couple of examples I'm going to bring out are this. Number one, when you're talking about getting benefits like from the VA and stuff, you have to be a little bit
Self
selfish.
care.
Self care, absolutely. So, a good friend of ours retired, was getting medically discharged out of the military, and that was after they tried to chapter him, I believe, for failure to maintain the standard of physical fitness and whatnot. But it's like, no, you jumped. You were a paratrooper. You jumped out of an airplane and you fucked up your back. So
Mhm.
he ended up having to go through a little bit of a fight to get what was rightfully his, because I'm not 100% familiar with the process, so bear with me. And if you are, feel free to leave a comment while we're talking about this. But there's, for the folks that have been like medically separated or retired out of the military and whatnot, I guess there's a process where like you go and you get assigned your VA rating, and his was not 100%. And he's like,
Yeah.
that's not right, because I got injured training for a wartime function, being in, up at Bragg, 82nd, the freaking, doing all that kind of stuff. They do one thing, they do a lot of one thing, and that's jumping out of damn airplanes, obviously. but that's how he got injured. He wasn't drifting down like this. He came straight down, so all that energy just jacked up his back, and no bueno. But he had to go all the way to JAG. He had to go and fight to get what was rightfully his and stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
absolutely, if you're doing something, if you're giving up the functionality and the health of your body to train for the purpose of defending our homeland, whether it's domestically or abroad, it's like that's kind of important. Like you should
Yeah, of
absolutely
course
get
it
the
is.
benefits for that. Um, the other thing I would say is, like Alma brought up earlier, self care. Mental health is a big part of that. You kind of have to be selfish, and it's in this day and age, the good thing is that we have the benefit of everybody's like taking a mental health day. Some people frown upon that, but like, and I'm not saying I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. I haven't needed to.
And that was the thing, man. Like that was one thing that I noticed he covered in the book. It was like, why is dedicating time for you to exercise selfish? Why is trying to dedicate time for you to have alone time and meditation time? Like, why are these things
And for the
considered
parents out there,
negative?
I'm gonna say what's on the mind of every parent out there: having time away from those lovely damn kitty ears.
Mm,
You're just like,
adult time.
and not like that kind of adult time, but just time away,
Mm,
like something.
maybe a little
So,
bit of that time.
well, hey man, do you do you? But like something I found is like this just popped into my head too. It's like when you go and in my job, I work with a lot of different kids. I've worked with a lot of different kids over the last 5-6 years, and so much so that I am in like a school setting, whether it's preschool, sometimes I'm in like a traditional school setting, and like it's terrible when I go out with my friends on a very limited basis, and I'm still in therapist mode where I have to relate to kids a lot, and I'm like, hey man, watch my beer, I gotta go to the potty, I'll be right back. Fuck, I just said that out loud, didn't I? Yeah, there's no coming back from that. So yeah, absolutely, having that time away, like I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and we're like, when the hell did they start doing the whole week off for Thanksgiving? And I'm like, I said, I don't recall, because when I was in school, I always thought it was, you went to school like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you had like Thursday, Friday off. But I guess,
Yep,
the sign of the
that's how I
time,
remember it.
right? So like when you go and you think about, you know, culture shifts and everything else, and how many people actually go out of town and travel, and not just for the students' sake. I mean, yeah, the students, their families go out of town, they have to travel, sometimes several states away, sometimes the other side of the country, whatever. But also that, like, the teachers, like with everything going on in the world of teaching, with the teachers and having to put up with the nonsense they have to put up with, it's like, hell yeah, take that whole week off for like just that mental freaking break of just not having to deal with the nonsense of the politics of your job, or having these hellions coming into your classroom just beating up teachers. Like, that, man, you want to talk about getting me freaking hot. Like the song says, I'm coming in hot. Straight up. Straight up.
Boo, 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 boo,
Yep.
boo, 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 boo.
Okay, we can stop that now. Thank you. But anyway, yeah, like, having, like, whether it's, and oh, that was the other thing I put on here for the notes. Like you said, having that time for you. I was talking to somebody last night, and she had a very good point. It's like, prioritizing yourself. Like, yeah, you need to make time to go out. And you know what, ladies, I'll give you credit. You do it best. You know what? You may not have the money, but you may be tight in other places financially, and I'm not saying anything bad about them. Just saying that's probably a real life scenario for some folks. But like, take the time, go out and get a damn mani pedi. It's like, all right, prioritize
Mhm.
yourself. That's enough. That's being a little bit selfish, but you know what? That's okay. And I'll say this too. We might discuss this topic a little bit more in depth on a later episode. But like, guys, like, there is just such this weird stigma with guys and their mental health.
Yeah.
Like, oh, something's bugging you. Oh, that's too bad. Drive on. Where did I just hear this? Huh.
Hmm.
Check out the last two episodes. But yeah, like, sometimes, as guys, if we have issues, there's not a whole lot of people we can talk to. I mean, it used to be kind of like this immature time where you couldn't go to your other buddy who, is just a regular manly man or whatever, heterosexual male, and you can't say, man, shit's bugging me. Like, dude, we're here to watch football and drink beers. How dare you, sir? Like, you can't do that. Is it frowned upon? Not as much as today, and I think that's a wonderful thing. That it's
Yeah.
not frowned upon. Does that probably still take place? Sure, why not?
Mhm.
But the one thing I will say is that it just seems like we're in this day and age where it's not as much of a frowned upon thing. If you need to take that time, just be like, I need to take a mental health day. I need to
Yeah.
get my head on right. You know
You
what? Take a day. Freaking come back to work the next day. You know
you
what? I'm in a better
you
place. I'm going to be more productive as a worker, as a person, as
yeah.
part of this corporation or this company. All right, cool. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you know what? They'll probably work harder. They'll probably work better. They'll probably work more efficiently. And
Absolutely.
you know
You mentioned that though, and I like
what you
it.
what you got on this, bro?
Like it makes me think, like, because before, like back in the days of like our granddads, obviously, guys didn't talk about their feelings. Like, and if they did, it was usually in a way that,
Generally, vaguely, or in passing.
yeah, like it was kind of like a, you're just being a bitch, dude. Shit like that. Nowadays, I think guys still tend to not talk about their feelings, and I but I think the major reason is because you know as much as people say, like, and not to get political, but this whole thing about being against masculinity. I'm not going to go into it too much,
That
but
that that what's that expression? Toxic masculinity.
yeah. So basically, you want guys to be sensitive, right?
That
But at
might
the
be a good
same
topic for a
but
show
at
down the road.
yeah, but at the same time, you'll notice that if a guy says, "Oh, well, this happened to me and this is why I feel this, that, and the other," especially nowadays because it can be spoken of a little bit more openly now, because although it's still not as common, it's a little bit, people are a little bit more receptive. The problem being, though, when men do speak out, it's not taken as seriously.
Oh yeah.
It's not taken as seriously. They look at it and it's like, "Oh, well, you're a guy, so you could have done this." Yeah, but you're saying that I'm the result of what the I don't understand.
Why is there a
So
double standard?
so you run into this, issue of a lot of guys out there, a lot of us out there are getting mixed signals, and because of the mixed signals, there's a lot of confusion and a lot of guys. I mean, I could go on this rant for a long time, but I'm trying to limit it to the conversation at hand. But
Right, right, right.
you run into a lot of things where guys end up not wanting to speak up because, well, shit, we just don't know what to say. Like, how can
Not
we say anything? Because if I do
and
say anything, I'm not going to be taken seriously. But if I don't say anything, I'm basically fucking myself.
but let me
It's a two edged sword, and it sucks, bro.
let me tack on one thing to that,
No,
because you're absolutely right with that stuff, but also the fact of, I say something, what kind of repercussions am I going to have? Like, oh, there he's talking about his feelings, a fucking bitch over there. Blah, 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 blah,
yeah,
blah. You
exactly.
got guys thinking down of you just because you're comfortable enough in yourself to be able to talk about your problems and whatnot.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, it truly is a double edged sword because, he speaks words.
hmm
And two edged sword. Double. Anyway, but
double edged sword.
you're
Same thing.
we're comfortable enough in our masculinity to bust each other's balls, and
We are.
that's we're selfless. I am very giving and understanding and allowing him to utilize my self-deprecating sense of humor to make our interactions better. So let's talk a little bit about, we found a couple articles that I want to refer to.
Yar. I got
There's
them
one
pulled up already.
There's one here from a website called happyminds.com, and it's talking about how it's Happy Minds psychology practice helping children and adults grow a brighter future. So I'm just going to kind of hit the highlights on this. It's not that long of an, well, this one's okay. This one's not that long of an article, so I'll just probably read the whole thing. So
It's relatively short.
it's relatively short. So
Yeah.
I was going to say something, but I'm like, no, this is not the time for that.
That's what she said.
Ah, damn it. So here we go. So this is self-care, finding a balance between selfless and selfish. Since when did using the word self become a problem? Is it a reaction to the increasingly falseness of the self we present online, e.g., our filtered selfies? Yeah.
Instagram,
Inst-
Facebook,
InstaTwit, Facebook,
Snapchat.
Snapbook, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Is it a resistance to being a tall poppy, e.g., being overly self confident? Perhaps it is seen as the cause of the increasing disconnect we experience as a community, such as being self absorbed. There are many ways that we view the self and how our language could change, and how our language can change how we feel about words simply by adding self. For instance, caring for others is one of the most common values people hold. Often in therapy sessions, people tell me that they believe it is important to care for their family and friends, for those who are vulnerable, and the act of caring is given as a sign of their love. When they act in line with this value, it gives them a sense of meaning and fulfillment. And that's true for anybody who's a damn first responder, whether you're a cop, whether you're fire, whether you're EMT,
You're
EMS, all that stuff. Like, you are being some of the most selfless people in our society, and it's a debt that we can't pay enough, because we just can't. You're out there working holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, when everybody else wants to celebrate. You guys are out there on guard, on watch,
Yep.
ready for shit to go down. So, and yet, these same people seem to balk when the concept of self care is presented to them. Quote, "Oh no, I'm being selfish when I do that," is a common response. If people deem caring for others to be meaningful, why do they have a blind spot in seeing the value of caring, including caring for themselves? My experience is that people can get trapped into believing selfless and selfish as polarized actions. E.g., they are either focusing on the needs of others, or else they are ignoring the needs of others, being selfish. They tend to not see that there is a continuum when there is a spot for self care to sit in the middle. How this tends to play out is that people who value caring for others tend to give much of themselves. This value can sometimes hold on, gotta wet the whistle.
Can sometimes.
This
No.
I love you, but I hate you at the same time. That's the polarizing nature of our relationship. Like, I love this guy. Fuck, he's annoying. This value can sometimes get twisted and warped into a way of avoiding uncomfortable feelings and thoughts about not being enough, not being a good enough parent, a good enough friend, strong enough, etc. How this impacts people's behavior is that they tend to avoid saying no to people. They have difficulty maintaining boundaries, can have relationships that aren't balanced in the give and take, may avoid telling others that they aren't coping or asking for help. All behaviors that promote self care.
Yeah.
Then there is the aversion of being seen as selfish. There are daily clickbait articles about parents who aren't doing enough for their kids, whether that be what is packed for lunch, managing their obsessive interest in the latest gaming craze, etc., that aim to name and shame. This isn't just for parents. We are bombarded by messages that by giving to oneself, we are taking something away from others. So, how does this continuum look? This is how I often explain it. Being selfish is putting your own needs ahead of others, often to their detriment. Being selfless is putting others' needs ahead of your own, often to your own detriment. Practicing self care is recognizing and responding to your needs while considering the impact on others. There
That's
are
the
lots.
balance.
I'm going to read that again. Practicing self care is recognizing and responding to the needs while considering the impact of others. There are lots of messages that self care is the same as being self indulgent. Think about all of those chocolate ads where the person finally gets to relax and have a break. Self indulgence is a temporary and often unhelpful way of trying to avoid facing and changing what is happening. Self care is about maintaining oneself for growth and change. It is about shifting the imbalance and building a healthier, more resilient self. When people value and practice self care, it creates a ripple effect for themselves and those that they care about. It is an investment towards having fulfilling relationships. It is a commitment to modeling positive mental health to others, especially children. It is choosing to acknowledge and respond to our needs with love and kindness, and it empowers us to grow. So, thinking
Yar.
about what we just read, there's something that I need to give you, Alamo, and your wife credit for is something you kind of had me start that I started doing because of you guys talking about it is the social media fast, and basically cutting off of social media for like I think mine was like a week or something when I first started doing it about that time. Just kind of now, to be fair, it's hard to do that when social media is one of the aspects of the show that we have.
Mhm.
It's part of the outreach. It's part of the
Yeah.
the way that we communicate with people that are consuming the message that we provide or produce and put out there. But at the same time, it's kind of nice just to be able to just unplug and go and not have to worry about a fucking thing on social media
Oh
because
yeah.
it is so consuming of your personal time and everything. So is that being selfish? Yeah. Is it for the betterment of yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it sometimes it's a little bit of, and it's also being a little bit selfless because like you just you're kind of giving people their space and whatnot. Like social media is such a bane of modern society. I mean, there's so many bad
Yeah.
things about it where you just have to like spy on people. Like, what are they doing? Where'd you go on this trip? What'd you do? Where'd you go? Who'd you see? Who'd you meet? Blah, blah. Like
Yeah.
everybody's turning like it's a very voyeuristic society, and it's just like that's great. Like, can you just namaste the fuck out of my business? That would be great.
Mhm.
But what do you think? I mean, what's your input on it there, bud?
No, I mean I completely agree, man.
Obviously, you're the one that freaking got me to do it there, gay.
Like social media. Let's be honest about social media. Social media can be a fucking
True.
fantastic tool,
True.
but given the way the algorithm is designed and works, um, I believe it can be just as damaging as it could be helpful. Um, especially with the way it works in society nowadays, with people looking for likes, people looking for people commenting on their stuff, doing more and more on the social media end and things of that nature. Like, you know, there's a certain thing that hits us when we start scrolling, and the more we scroll, we get dopamine hits. Actually, funny little thing too, like I actually started looking into this, like the research that goes into it is actually really interesting, because if you look into it, you'll find that the constant hits and the scrolling and the scrolling and the scrolling and trying to freaking get these dopamine hits, um especially throughout like Gen Zers and things like that recently, people's attention spans have shortened. Like,
Yeah.
you know like I thought I was bad. You know what I mean? Consider hey, ADHD, meh.
Yeah, but dude,
But
that's across the board, bro.
you
Like,
know, it's absolutely horrendous. And then on top of that, you know, the algorithm is like it's almost like a learning algorithm.
right.
It's designed to follow your patterns. It's designed to look at what you click on. The more things you click on, the more things you like, the more it tries to feed you more and more and more and more of that information. And you know, like I said, in some ways that can be really, honestly, it could be really fun. It could be really entertaining. But on that same spectrum, I believe that there's an underlying danger to the way social media works that, I mean, honestly, like whenever it gets brought up in, regular society is not, people laugh it off. Let's just be honest. People laugh it off because it's like that. Social media is not running my life. What are you talking about?
Hold on a second. I gotta get some clicks. What'd you say? Huh? Were you talking? What?
And exactly. And I honest to God, my theory,
Spit it out.
um, this is honestly why I think people are so jacked up the way they are now. Like everybody's so used to being on their phones, and because our attention spans are so short, or at least most recent society, the attention spans have gotten shorter because of social media. People don't do their own research to see if the other side is wrong or right, or a little bit in the middle.
They just
It
readily
doesn't matter.
consume. They just readily consume what's given to them, and it's just like, like at least try to go. If I see something on the internet, I at least try to go and look it up just to see if it's like factually correct or
Correct.
that kind of shit. But that just doesn't happen like that. So
No, not at all.
and you have a very valid point about the whole how social media is just slowly if it's not already fully ingrained in our lives, it's coming on with a vengeance quickly.
Oh
Like the
fuck yeah.
whole like I brought up the whole Walmart thing about how there's no more cashiers. You just have a bunch of people walking around with some kind of cellular or electronic device where they're just monitoring all the
Product
transactions.
scan.
Pretty much, you're ringing up, doing all your own, ringing out of your merchandise and whatnot, and they're just checking over everything. As soon as there's a error or some kind of hang up or something, they get a little message, boop, boop, and they go over and save the day and all that stuff. But like, it's a bummer. And then I went to the store tonight with my mom, and like I was kind of annoyed. Like, one of the big things that my grandfather was vehemently and adamantly like, this is something you will do, is when I turned 18, I had to sit down and read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And for the younger folks out there, like, if you haven't read this, sit down, get a copy from the library, get on Audible, get it on ebook or whatever, and listen and consume this knowledge and wisdom that has been around for a long damn time, like straight up long time. My grandfather was listening to this. This was back in like right after the Great Depression. He would go to these courses, and this is a guy who, and I've said this before, but this is a guy who had a high school education, went on to be the president of a bank, had his own produce company, like accomplished a lot of shit just by doing this, training to improve and better himself because he was not being selfish in a negative sense. And like that was very formative to my personality and stuff. And like I'm in the store tonight, and there's a cashier behind. I'm in Publix or something. There's a cashier behind the register. There is a young lady who's bagging up, and they were talking to another young man who is also a bag person. Um, and like she's scanning up my stuff and just carrying on a conversation. And she looks at me. She goes, 1034. Like, didn't like, hi, how's it going? Like, and Alamo, you worked in retail, doing we worked in retail together. Funny enough, I ran into Greg, by the way, when I was up at Publix. Like, oh hey man, what's going on? But anyway, and my mom, so I introduced my mom and stuff, and she's like, yeah, we used to work together way back when. So it's kind of funny the timing of all that. But
Yeah.
it's not the hardest thing. People like, I tell people all the time, when I was doing Uber, the easiest thing you can do is just have a great personality, and that's the easiest way to get 5-star ratings. It's like,
Ye-
you don't have to have the nicest car, you don't have to impress people, but just like Don't be a turd and have the personality of a fucking sewer system.
You know what I think? You know what it is, and I'm
Oh
gonna say
boy.
it. I'm gonna
I
say this
feel like I'm gonna
because
get hit with some knowledge right here.
I'm
Warheads
gonna
to foreheads, baby.
I'm gonna say it the way I recently heard it, and it was like when I heard the person say it, which I'm gonna be honest, I can't remember who the hell said it. They said straight up, "We're so connected right now, we are disconnected."
Oh yeah.
There is,
You're
especially now,
absolutely right.
we with the advent of social media and everything else, we have become so connected that genuine face-to-face connection is no longer sought because the I, from what I can muster up in my head about
Preach,
that
dude,
theory
preach.
is because we get far more of a high. There's so much more of a high when we're on social media. We're essentially tapped out by the time we have any kind of real social interaction.
Yeah.
Um, and dude, I you know, I don't, I don't know how to disprove it because there's just so much research. Like, and you can Google these articles. I mean, there's like
Well, look at also
studies from Harvard, studies from like major universities
yeah,
on,
look at the conversation we had with Gino on episode 44, talking
yeah,
about recovery and how like
mhm,
all that stuff like is just so detrimental and everything. But
yeah, man,
I mean, look at it. I saw something one time. It's like when the phone was wired to the wall, we were free. When the
yeah,
phone became wireless, we put a leash on ourselves or something kind of that sentiment or that kind of mentality, whatnot. But it's like,
yep.
yeah, it's totally true. And it's like, it's crazy. I mean, listen, you know,
We are slaves to our devices.
pretty much. And, that's kind of the reason why I haven't upgraded. I'm running an older phone. It's a S9 Samsung.
Yeah,
It's still on 4G. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't need the newest, nicest phone and shit. Like,
yeah.
for me, a luxury would be having like a smartwatch that links to it, so I can like, have the ability to check messages and stuff. But like, I'm still hesitant about pulling the trigger on that. But I mean, let us know your thoughts. Feel free to leave a comment. For the show, let us know what you think about this. Is being selfish bad? I wholeheartedly believe not always. It depends on the
Yeah,
context of the selfishness. If you're
correct.
selfish, being selfish and trying to take care of yourself and saying, I need to get away and take a vacation, I need to unplug and unwind, then
I
yeah.
need me time.
I was telling somebody today, because I kind of had a moment at work. We were just kind of laughing. Do you remember those commercials where it was for, I don't know if it was I think it was Travelocity or Expedia or something, where like something funny would happen and like the voiceover would go, "Want to get away? You are now free to move about the cabin." Boo, or something like that. I forget what the brand was, and if you know, please put that in the comments. But yeah, but it's like,
Yes, please.
want to get away, and it's like, yeah, absolutely, because
Yeah.
that's important. You need to have that self care and that self awareness and that self advocation, saying, I need to be able to do that. And
I
thank
think that's
goodness.
why I enjoy like hiking and things like that.
Oh
Like
yeah, dude.
because I'm a very, very outdoorsy person. I mean,
Same,
lately
dude.
I haven't really done it just because I've been kind of a lazy bum. But
It's great when you do it in the wintertime because it's already
oh,
cool outside, so you don't have to wear a bunch of extra stuff. If you get sweaty, you're gonna
yeah,
cool down
you're gonna cool down
because of the
easy.
natural temperature.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's why I liked my trip to Arizona so much because there was just, I mean, the
Yeah.
outdoors. I mean, even though it was desert, I mean, the outdoors were like literally in your fucking backyard. Like all you didn't have to go far
Oh,
to
dude,
like
yeah.
have hiking areas, you know?
The two work
Uh,
trips that I took earlier this year to Utah were fucking amazing. Like it was a work
Utah.
trip. I went to Utah, but like it was work, but it was still just like this is great. It's just
Yeah.
living in the moment, having that experience of being somewhere other than. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Florida boy through and through. Okay, but just seeing something different, seeing mountains. I haven't been in the mountains since I was in Afghanistan, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
It's like holy shit. Well, maybe not for that duration. Maybe like for a day or two here and there, but that's for another time. But you know, sometimes listen, it's great to be selfless. That's cool. But it's
Yeah.
also okay to be selfish. And if anybody says otherwise, just tell them, hey, if you don't chew Big Red, well, fuck you. Whatever you gotta do, man.
I'll
So
say it this way. If you come to the point where you realize you're starting to be burned out because you you know you're given more than you get, you need to give to yourself.
yeah,
Um, you know, there there comes a point where consistently giving without, you know, giving back to yourself in some sense, you become exhausted. And at the same time, you will, in your exhaustion, take away from the people that love you the most and the people that are around you.
yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
y-
And unequivocally, yes.
yes, you have to find that balance where it's like, you know what? I'm glad you want me to do this. I'm going to do it for you. Just let me have some time to just ease myself. You
Yeah.
have to kind of put up those boundaries and make it known that you need those boundaries, you know, not because you're trying to get away from everybody. I mean, you kind of are, but you, but you have to let them know that from a perspective of, look, I'm not going to give you my best if I don't try to handle myself first.
And give
You know,
myself the best that I need. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So,
Mm,
like we said, folks, there's I don't like the article said, it's not necessarily that they're polar opposites. It's just that they're
yeah.
different points of of a spectrum. You have being selfless on one side, you have being selfish on the other, and just finding that needle somewhere in the middle that works best for you for finding that balance. That's what's
Just
important.
try and balance it. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Just balance it.
And then he makes it about a dick joke. That's just fantastic. That's awesome. So anyway, that's our conversation.
Rob,
That's
Rob,
that's
Rob,
episode
Rob.
047 for our talk
Two.
on selfless versus selfish. We're going to start closing out the show the way we normally do. Um, if you are new to the show, this show got started as a passion project because we found out that a friend of ours that we used to work with, Alamo and I, um, unfortunately chose to solve a temporary problem with a permanent solution.
Yar.
And if you were fortunate and lucky enough to know John was a hell of a guy. He was funny, just had the zest for life, vigor, and I'll say it every time. He was just a funny fucker to be around. Like, just made work so much fun. We did the dumbest shit and got away with it. Nothing criminal, nothing bad, but just
No.
dumb stuff. And it
Just
just made
dumb stuff.
work
Yeah.
so much fun. And it's like we still took care of customers. We sold what we needed to sell and all that kind of shit. But it was just fun. And John's not here anymore, and that's a real bummer because he was somebody worth knowing. So Alamo approached me about saying, "Dude, we should do something together." I was like, what? We do a podcast." Well, I don't know about that, dude. They put a fucking monkey in space. How hard can that be? Fair. And then we found out about John passing, and it's like I was like, dude, I'm in. That was a sign. We need to do this. So the whole purpose of this is just to kind of bring awareness and memory honor to the memory of people like John who have unfortunately gone that same route and chosen to unfortunately solve a temporary problem with a permanent solution. That's the reason why I wear that bracelet right there from Till Valhalla Project. 22 veterans a day on average commit suicide, and that's 22 way too many. So this is our way of kind of combating that. So in the process of coming up with our program here, we were like, what can we do to help people, that are struggling with this on a day-to-day basis? So we came up with the Bros Code. Um, it's easy to remember. I mean, we were both, 11 series in the Army, so we're both kind of like, special. So we wanted to keep it simple, keep it simple, specialist.
Genius method.
So keep it simple, shithead. So
What are you doing, shithead?
I love that guy. We gotta call him. We should have him on the show. But
Oh, we
anyway,
should. He's a vet. He's a vet
yeah,
too.
yeah. So the
Oh
Bros
my
Code.
god, dude.
Okay, focus,
Sorry.
focus. I shouldn't have brought it up because I knew you were gonna go squirrel. Just
Mm-hmm.
off into the ether. But if you can remember 4 easy letters and what they stand for, you're gonna be okay. Okay. First one's B. Be tenacious. Okay. Whatever you do, do it to the utmost of your abilities.
Damn right.
Go be, if you're somebody in a workplace where you have coworkers that rely on you, be selfless. Be as selfless as you can be to help your friends out and your comrades in arms and comrades in workplace as best you can. Also be tenacious enough to know that, hey, it's okay to be selfish. It's okay for me to go, I need to take some time to get my shit figured out. I'll come back when I do that. Sometimes it might mean leaving a job. Sometimes it might be tenacious to fucking quit and move on to a better gig, to make things better for you and your family. Sorry. Nothing wrong with that. No matter what you do, whether it's being a parent, coworker, a first responder, a member of the military, whatever that is, do it to the best, do it to 100% of your abilities and go in there. Like Ron Swanson said, don't half-ass 2 things. Whole-ass 1 thing. And that's all I can say about that. So, R, refuse to surrender. When things come up, like, mental exhaustion, the job's getting to you, refuse to surrender. Take that time to go out and say, hey, I'm going to take a vacation. I'm going to go get some time for me. I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit this shit harder than I ever have before. It's okay. Whatever that looks like. Sometimes there are going to be things that happen where you're going to get a little bit off track, off topic, off mission. Refuse to surrender. Reanalyze. Do what's it called? OODA. Do the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. That's all you can do. Oh, obliterate your obstacles. Like I mentioned before, there's going to be times in your life where you're going to get your dick knocked in the dirt. It's okay, ladies. You don't have a dick. I understand that, but the sentiment's there. You can get your dick.
Well, I mean, it is 2022.
It's true. But we're not gonna get into politics. Anyway, so just remember, whatever happens, sometimes you got to go through those obstacles. Sometimes you got to climb over a wall. Sometimes you got to do the Shawshank Redemption and freaking swim through 500 yards of waste in a sewer pipe to get out of the prison. Waste. Sometimes you've got to,
otherwise known as Dookie.
That was implied. Thank you. Sometimes you have to. Damn it! I was on a roll too, and you just frag the whole goddamn thing, dude. Sometimes, yeah, exactly. Sometimes, okay, now shut up. I'm on a roll.
No.
Sometimes you have to breach the door and to get into somewhere. Sometimes you have to breach the side of the building. Sometimes you have to, shoot out into the wood line to get around something, to to cross over the obstacle or whatnot. Whatever the case may be. Sometimes you got to use some C4 and Bangalores, or sometimes you got to do what this guy did, just back a striker into it and knock the fucker down. It's all good. Obliterate your obstacles. I approve this message. S. Most importantly, the most important pillar of the Battle Bros Code is S. Seek out help in a time of need. Okay, as we mentioned about our friend John, there's nothing we wouldn't do to get John back. He's not coming back. It's unfortunate because he was a good dude. I just wish that he would have sought out help from somebody that I could have known, and I could have been that help he might have needed, or even Alamo here. Whatever the case may be. If you feel like you need some help, there are resources out there. Okay. There is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. You can reach them in one of two ways. You have the 1-800 number, which is 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. There's also the 3-digit caller, I guess you call it prefix, or the 3-digit, you
Yeah.
get a hold of them in the 3-digit what method. You just have to dial 988. That's 988. You can actually call or text because, let's face it, like we said, everybody's on their damn phone nowadays in the digital sense. Um, get a hold of them. They have somebody that's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you're not feeling up, like you have anybody you can reach out to. If you have those resources of people you served with, your family members, somebody that you can talk to about this, hit them up. All it takes is a phone call. All it takes is a text message. You know, I can't stress that enough. We
Yeah.
want to stop. We want to turn this number into zero. That's what we need to do by all means. Okay.
Yarg.
So if you can do those things, you should be all right. So I'm going to turn over to Alamo here. He's going to close us out, and then we're going to go from there. So,
All right, folks. Last but not least, if you want to catch us on the social medias, you can and should do that over at the facebook.com/battle Bruce.podcast. You can also catch us on the Instagram at Battle Brews _podcast. You can also catch us on the Twitter space at Battle Bros PC. If you'd like to email us or message us, you can also message us, obviously, on Twitter. You can message us over there on the Facebook, the Instagram, and use
all
the
dams.
messenger, all the AMs.
All dams. You can do all dams. All
And
dams.
you could use the instant messengers on those platforms to go ahead and message us. We usually will get back to you in about a 24-hour period. So our response time is pretty damn quick. We have not failed yet. You can also catch us on.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, dude. You can also message us over on Battle Bros PC at gmail.com. That is our personal Battle Bros dedicated Gmail where you can send all of your messages to us, as well as maybe some show requests. You could do that on any platform you feel like.
Yes, by all means, if you have an idea for a show, at least submit it. We'll can take it under consideration because we have a little bit of a sounding board. There's a third member of our show, the unofficial Battle Bro. She's a Battle Bay.
She's the Battle Bay.
She knows who she is, so
she does. And the Battle Bay.
You know who we're talking about. Giggity.
You can also catch us over on the Spotify, over on the Anchor, which is our main platform of service that we actually do everything onto. By the way, thank you, Anchor, for the opportunity to help us do this. We thank you very much for letting schmucks like us have a platform on which we can talk. You can also
schmucks like us. That's true.
You can also catch us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Amazon Music, hey, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Stitcher. All the Stitchers, all the casts.
All dams.
And last but not least, go ahead and like us over there on Anchor. And you can actually click the little support button. And if you feel so obliged, you can actually donate to the show. For everything from $1 to whatever you feel is most fitting. Even if you feel like we're worth 50 cents, hey, we're not going to take no for an answer.
If you feel froggy enough to want to donate to our show and to our cause, we are going to humbly thank you, and we're going to continue to push this mission forward and do the best job that we can do so that this gets to the people it needs to get to. It might not be about you. It might be, you hear about us, you watch us and go, these guys got a pretty good thing going on. And then you tell somebody, and then they tell somebody, and that's the person that this kind of stuff needs to get to.
That's right.
That's awesome. We just started our third season. We're in the third show of our third season.
Try working on that selflessness, y'all.
Yeah. Oh, good push. So help us out. We still need all the help we can get from the loyal listeners and viewers like you. you are just as important to our mission as us putting this show
Also,
on every week. So
liking and sharing, as once again I'm going to
yes,
state, helps the YouTube algorithm recognize us a little bit better. So the more you share, the more you care.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So
Other than
on
that, I
that
got
note,
nothing.
we're going to wrap this up for tonight. Thanks for watching. This has been episode 047, Selfless versus Selfish. Appreciate you being part of the conversation and being part of our mission. All of you out there in the Battle Bro Legion of followers and whatnot, we appreciate that. And we hope to see you again soon. Check us out next week when we have our next latest and greatest conversation on whatever topic we're going to discuss, because
Yar.
I don't know what it is yet, but that's okay. So yeah, check us out soon. And again, just remember,
We got
be,
ideas.
be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek out help from a friend in need. If you can remember those 4 things, man, you're going to be okay, and we're going to be here to help you out. So until next time, this has been Mac and Alamo from the Battle Bros podcast. We want to say thank you so much. We love you guys. Thanks for being part of this, and we'll catch you down the road.
Battle Bros out.